Hey guys, what's up? It's Kino here, and today I'll be doing a different type of video that I usually do. Today I'll be testing different resolutions against 1080p on Counter-Strike, and I want to see how they do, really. If you're lazy like me, you can skip to the end of the video and just see the results, but if you want to stick around for the gameplay and the commentary, you can do that as well if you want. It's really up to you. First resolution is 480p, and going into it, it starts with really high FPS. You can see some dips here, but overall it's stable. Now, because this resolution is so low, I could pretty much not see shit at distance. So my teammate that's just there on a side, I could pretty much hardly see his body. It was just pixels. You might have a different experience with it, but personally, on stretched, it's not very nice for me. My CPU right now is being used about just under 80%. My GPU is just sitting around 30%. Temps are very low because this is really not demanding for my system at all, which is why the FPS isn't crazy high as it could be. I'm moving on to 800 by 600. This is basically a square. If you don't play stretched, the FPS starts very high. You'll see at the end in my my graph. It does get some dips, but mostly it does stay quite high. The max being around 339, which is not bad at all. The minimum was 177, which shows a clear dip. But again, my CPU and GPU are used a tiny bit more for this resolution. But the difference is not huge, and you can even see that in the FPS because it's not that much different. A high FPS like this, the difference is not even seen that much between, say, 330 FPS and 30 FPS. It's pretty much the same. (1024 times 768). What can I say about this? The maximum is a pretty decent 324 that I saw. The minimum was about 187, and the average was about 267. You'll see all this at the end anyway again. Honestly, this is pretty stable. It's a big step up from the other two resolutions that I tested before. Like, visually I could see stuff a lot better, and it just made me really happy when I finally switched. But yeah, I'm sorry I'm ill as well. But yeah, it's going pretty strong. (1280 by 960) is also pretty nice. It was pretty clear visually. The FPS is doing really well on this one as well. It did drop below 200, which you'll see again at the end. But yeah, the performance was pretty decent. Not gonna lie, pretty decent. (1280 by 1024) is what I actually play on when I play Counter-Strike. This has the second best FPS. It's the highest FPS you'll see on my test on this rig, but it's the second highest average FPS overall, and to me it's nice visually. I like the FPS and I like that it's stretched. I just like the way it feels. (1080p) just classic. I hate this resolution on Counter-Strike. I just do not like it. I cannot get my head around how to play on this resolution. I don't get how people play on it either, but I guess if you haven't tried really anything different, it feels kind of normal to you. Just like 1280 by 1024 feels normal to me. CPU and GPU are being utilized more. Temps are slightly higher, maybe about the same. It's just good performance, really. You don't really expect much less than that. Now, for the graph, you can see a very strong performance from 1080p and 1280 by 1024. 1080p obviously is going to have the higher FPS, higher performance. GPU and CPU utilize more RAM as well. It doesn't make that big of a difference on Counter-Strike, but that also does help with the FPS being higher. So it's the second highest max FPS by 8 FPS compared to 1280 by 1024. So for this test, I basically found out that 1024p is the highest scoring FPS. You would expect that for a lower resolution, but that's not really the case with the other resolutions. You can't really see a pattern. For max FPS, it's just all over the place. I'm sure if I did this test many more times and got a more accurate average, and for max FPS and minimum FPS, and then consequently average FPS, everything would probably have a much more decent pattern. But that would take way too long to make, and it's just not worth it, really. Again, for the minimum FPS, the most minimum I've seen was on 800 x 600, which was 177, which is totally not playable, may I say. I'm joking. But 1080p with 228 FPS is 24 FPS than number 2, which was 1024p, which is a very good performance from 1080p. Average FPS, there is a clear pattern here, which just basically just underlines the whole experiment that I've made. 1080p, highest average FPS, and 640 by 480 is the lowest average FPS. Which resolution should you play? From my experiment, if you have this rig, if you like 1080p, go for that. You won't really notice any difference whatever resolution you play, unless you have a 144Hz monitor, which then I would suggest playing on the whatever gives you the highest FPS, but it's really up to you. 1080p for my PC, for me, gives me the highest FPS, but I decided to play 1024p, which is only 9 FPS lower. Pretty much no difference, but yeah, this is pretty much what I got. Guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this different kind of video. If you want me to do more for maybe different games or stuff like that, let me know. And yeah, see you in the next one. Peace.